Hello, welcome. It's the preview. It's the preview between Fulham and Wolverhampton Wanderers. It is probably my favourite match day of the whole season, always, because it's the one that comes after the November international break, meaning you have just club football all the way through to about mid-March. Happy days. Welcome along. This is a video for Patreon members and for YouTube as well. So if there's any Wolverhampton Wanderers fans watching, welcome along. And let's just get into how I think the game may go on Saturday. Fulham obviously are in fine form, 7th in the table, on the back of 2 wins against Brentford and Crystal Palace. Whereas with Wolves, I'm beating in 3, and they got their first win of the season last time out against Southampton as well. So they're off the mark. Fulham in 7th, Wolves in 19th in the table. This is not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy game whatsoever. You look at games on paper, you look at this run of form, or run of fixtures that we had, and you thought, okay, well, we're playing Everton, Brentford, Palace, and Wolves. That's quite nice before we play Tottenham and then Brighton and then Arsenal and Liverpool. So that's obviously 4 very, very tricky games. So we're sort of coming to this end of this run of fixtures where things are looking quite favourable. I think Fulham, obviously, at home have been very, very strong so far this season and lost the 1 game at home to Aston Villa. I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit sort of. Obviously, Fulham haven't played for a while, and it's quite hard to sort of get yourself back into that sort of match day mentality and gearing up towards a game, and obviously looking forward to the game on Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to watching Wolves. Actually, I think Wolves have been such an interesting team so far this season. I think that they have been better than their position suggests. I think they've been unlucky in games. We went over it on the Patreon a couple of days ago about Wolves and so far their season, their season so far, they've conceded a fair few goals, but they've put in some good performances and been unlucky at times not to get the results. Obviously, the key man, really, I look at Wolves' is side, and the key man is Matheus Cunha. Is the player that really does strike fear into me. Fantastic player he is. Let's just have a look at some of his stats so far this season. He scored, of course, the week before, a really good goal against Southampton. They played this sort of formation with 3 centre backs, 2 wing backs, 2 in midfield, 2 just behind the striker. Usually, sometimes Hwang, it's Brent Larson, usually as well. So you look at their lineup last time out. Jose Sarr in goal. It was Bueno, Dawson, and Gomez with Semedo and Mike Nouri as wing backs in the midfield. Former Fulham player Mario Lemina and João Gomez with Sarabia and Cunha behind Larson. It's a good team. Decent bench. Bellegarde, a very good option. Guedes, really good option off the bench. Gomez, Doherty, Sam Johnston, Pond. We know all about Andre, even though he never signed. The man who never really was close. We never really close to signing him, but the rumours were all summer that Fulham were the front runners, and then we called our interest, or we didn't want to pay what Fulham in the end wanted us to pay, and he went for a cut deal for Wolves, and I think it's an outstanding signing. I think Andre obviously was such an exciting player. He's now sort of dropped into the bench, onto the bench, and hasn't got as many minutes recently as we'd all thought maybe he would. Obviously, Toby Doyle and of course Carlos Forbes as well, a very promising looking winger. I mean, people looked at this game and said, "Oh, this is the chance we see Andre play at Craven Cottage." I don't necessarily think he'll start. I don't know what Wolves fans think. I don't see necessarily many changes to that Wolves team that beat Southampton. Let's just have a look, actually, if we preview this game and see if there's any injuries we can talk about. Obviously, Sasha Lukic, we don't actually know. We'll find out on Friday whether Sasha Lukic will be back in contention. I'm guessing he probably will be back in contention. Hopefully, he's been back training for a number of weeks now, so hopefully he's ready to at least play on the bench. I don't think he's necessarily going to start. We'll come on to Fulham's team in just a second. Obviously, Vinicius could be back as well in contention, but it does look like obviously Mosquera. We know he got a really bad injury at the back end of a couple months ago. Sam Johnston is doubtful with a muscle injury. Hwang is also doubtful with an ankle injury. Is that Boubacar Traore is doubtful as well. So there are a couple of players missing for Wolves. So we might see something very, very similar to what we saw against Southampton. In terms of Fulham's team, this is how I'd line up. I'd go unchanged, I think. I'd keep it the same because of all the internationals and it always seems like ages since we played Palace. I've sort of forgotten how we line up, but let's just run through it. So it'll be Leno in goal. It'll be Tete, Anderson, Bassi, Robinson, Sander Berger, Emil Smith-Rowe, Andreas Pereira, and it'll be Iwobi, Nelson, Raul Jimenez. Obviously, Harry Wilson coming off the bench and scoring after 40 seconds against Palace. He could play as the number 10. I mean, he really could. He could start in that position. I actually think that Andreas Pereira had a strong game against Crystal Palace, and maybe again that Wilson could be the impact sub, and him as that role as the impact sub. It's actually really interesting, actually, because remember the goal that he scored against Crystal Palace, where he made that run. A very, very similar thing happened when we played the last time we played Wolves, and that was at Molineux, where he actually went through on goal after a really nice through ball. I can't remember who played it, but and then I think he just missed the target. He didn't score from it. That was obviously a game. Last time we played Wolves, we lost 2-1. I'd already left the ground by the time Iwobi had stuck it in to make it 2-1. I was rushing back to the pub, trying to have another post-match pint before our train home, and then of course the game at the Cottage where Fulham won by 3-2. 2 penalties from Willian after Hwang had scored a penalty, and I think Cunha may have scored as well after Iwobi put us in front fairly early on. How do I see this one going? I think Wolves will make this difficult for us. Compact in midfield, good pressers, and obviously flying wing backs. Obviously, we see that with Fulham. So Aït-Nouri and Nelson Semedo on the other side. We obviously have Robinson and Tete as fullbacks, and they love to bomb forward as well. I think this is going to be tough. There's going to be a big midfield battle here. You've got 2 strong players in João Gomez and Mario Lemina. And then up against the midfield and Sander Berger, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Andres Pereira, who like to get in the pockets, like to get in the half spaces and sort of link up with the wide men and create opportunities from there. We're seeing some really good patterns of play from Fulham, especially at home. Down that left-hand side with, I feel like I say every week, with Robinson, Emil Smith-Rowe and Nelson, it seems to be at the moment, or even if it was Iwobi down that left-hand side. Those combinations are really, really good. And against Brentford in our last home game, there was a really nice move that saw us get into the box, and it was a decent opportunity. It didn't come off in the end, but some of those combinations are really, really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, hopefully, on Saturday. Raul Jimenez obviously didn't score against Crystal Palace, but I think he'll get the nod ahead of Rodrigo Muniz again. He did score, I think, for Mexico last night. Happy days. Or this morning. It was like a 2:30 a.m. kickoff, wasn't it? So, yeah, looking forward to seeing Raul Jimenez, and hopefully he can get back on the score sheet against his former team, of course. Another player who used to play for Wolves is Adama Traore, who was, of course, starting loads of games, and now he's obviously on the bench for Reiss Nelson. We're starting to see some real good stuff from Reiss Nelson. There was, some small sort of things he can work on, especially against Palace, his finishing, his decision-making in the final third. Maybe we saw that against Everton as well when he got into those positions. But overall, his game is really, really good. He's improving. He brings a lot of energy to the team, and I think he's really exciting and worthy of a start. But yeah, it'd be good to see Sasha. I mean, if we have Sasha Lukic back on the bench, we basically have, barring any injuries in the international break, which I'm unaware of at the moment, we'll have a full, clean bill of health, which is fantastic. With Vinicius, obviously, as an option as well, might mean that we won't see the likes of Josh King, Ryan Sessegnon on the bench for Fulham, because we'll have everyone back, and they usually are the two that miss out when it comes to the full strength squad, and obviously Vinicius being one of those as well. Score prediction. You know what? I haven't really given this game that much thought just yet, but I think Fulham at home, the form we're on, the football we're playing, I'm going to back us to win by 2-1. I think it'll be 2-1. I like I say, I'm very much looking forward to. As a journalist, I look forward to seeing good players and obviously players from the opposition. Obviously, I'm a Fulham fan, want Fulham to win, but Matheus Cunha is such a fantastic player, and probably is one of the only players from that Wolves team. No disrespect to Wolves, but it's probably one of the only players from that Wolves team that I would probably take and maybe put into our 11. I like João Gomez. I like Andre, obviously, after talking about him all summer. Ait is a very good player, of course, but I feel like Robinson is just as good on that side, if not better. Probably better in my opinion. But yeah, obviously Wolves, losing Max Kilman was a big blow to West Ham, and losing Mosquera, for an injury is obviously a big blow. Wolves have had a difficult season. I feel sorry for Gary O'Neill. The last minute goal they conceded to Manchester City, the controversy behind that, the performance against Newcastle where it was good, but then they ended up losing the game through 2 screamers, conceding 6 to Chelsea, being 2-2 at half time was pretty tough. But they are on the board. They've beaten Southampton in their next few games as well. Ourselves, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester, all those fixtures leading up to Boxing Day before they host Manchester United and go away to Spurs on Sunday the 29th. I don't think Wolves will be relegated. I don't think they're going to go down. I think now they've got the 1 win. Maybe it's a bad time to play Wolves. Maybe it was a good time to play Wolves because they got the win and the momentum is stifled due to the international break and they have to sort of pick themselves up and go again. But it's a bad time to play Wolves because they are now, okay, we've got a win. Let's go into this game against Fulham with a load of confidence. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game. Bellegarde, a really, really good player as well. And maybe he starts from the bench. Maybe he starts on the pitch on Saturday. But I'm going to back Fulham to win by 2-1. I think it'll be like 1-0 Fulham, 1-1, and then we'll score a winner in the second half, hopefully in front of the Hammersmith end. I'm going to back Jimenez to score the first one. I think like Brun Larsen or Cunha equalises. And I'm going to go a winning goal from Emil Smith-Rowe. I'm feeling very good about Smith-Rowe right now. The last few games he's shown, after a really poor game, I have to admit, against Aston Villa, he's shown glimpses of just the quality and the reason why we signed him in the first place. And just some of those jinking runs he does, some of the link up he does with Robinson and Iwobi. I mean, Iwobi's been fantastic this season. Just an utterly brilliant player, Joachim Andersen. So yeah, really, really excited, feeling really good about this Fulham team. So that's my prediction. That's my preview. I think it's going to be a good game. It usually is. There's been some really good games at Craven Cottage so far this season. And Fulham have. I read a stat earlier today that Fulham have won. Okay, whatever you think about XG, that's fine. But Fulham have won the XG battle in every single game this season, barring the opening game of the season against Manchester United, in a game where basically the only chances Fulham had, or the big chance that Fulham had, they weren't really threatening towards goal, but it was just about the final ball and it was about the final decision making that could have led to something. And still think we could have, if things were different, got something from that game. Thanks very much for watching, any Wolves fans. Keep it polite in the comments and let me know your thoughts on the game. Like I said, I think Wolves will get themselves out of trouble this season. There's a really nice run of fixtures, and if they can build on their win against us on Saturday, I think they'll be on their way to sort of beating the droppers. Well, you can't really say beat the drop at this stage of the season, but getting out of trouble and then towards Christmas, hopefully looking towards getting up to the 17th to 16th and above. I'm glad they sort of stuck with Gary O'Neill when there was lots of calls for him to be sacked. There was a game where, of course, they were saying you're not fit to. No, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And then I think, was that the game against Crystal Palace? Still managed to get a point from that game as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll speak again on Thursday for my Patreon members. If you do want to subscribe to the Patreon, £5 a month, $5.50. We've surpassed 100. We're looking on to the next milestone now. Thanks so much for the support. The support over the international break has been unbelievable. So massive thanks for that. And subscribe for really cool Fulham content that is daily, it's every day, and it's myself as a dedicated journalist covering the club, home, away, every single game, and it's the best job in the world, in my opinion. So thanks very much for watching. We'll speak again very, very soon.